Welcome to the AI for Sales podcast, sponsored by Nooks.ai and BDR.ai, where technology meets tenacity and the future of sales is happening right now. Hosted by best-selling author, speaker, and sales innovator Chad Burmeister, this show is your gateway to 5x, even 10x your pipeline and performance. We are here to show you how artificial intelligence and human creativity come together to generate more opportunities faster than ever before. Because in sales, time kills deals. But in AI for sales, AI kills time. Get ready to learn, level up, and lead the AI for sales revolution. This is the AI for Sales podcast. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another AI for Sales podcast. I'm so excited because last night I was at an event and we didn't actually talk about AI at all. So
wow.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, and that's what we do on this podcast. So if you think we're not going to talk about AI here, you're mistaken. But last night we didn't, and it was amazing. So today I'm here with Deya Naef, who's in New Orleans, which is awesome because my wife actually went to school there. We were just talking about. And so I'm with Deya Naef, who is a founder of the Success Partner Coaching and Consulting. She's an AI strategist, an attorney, an artist, and an avid networker. And let's just call a spade. Attorney and artists are absolutely being affected by the AI wave.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that today. Deya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chad, for having me on. I'm loving being here.
Well, it's interesting times. I will admit I have the word sales AI on my license plate. So I am more a fan than I am not a fan. And so I'm optimistic that it can do better for the world than it will hurt. We just have to open our minds to the reality that it's here to stay, and we have to embrace it for the good that it can do, and try to help people with it, and hope it doesn't do as much damage as it could, and embrace it. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. There we go.
Well, the first question, let's let the audience get to know you first. Usually
Sure.
I can jump right into questions. Let's go with the EQ part of what we were talking about. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I sort of came into this world as an artist, but over the times and through education, I ended up going into law and law school, and really enjoyed law school. It was the challenging, but then it was also very social. There were a lot of social events in law school, as we have instead of writing a bunch of papers like you do in graduate school, like the entire semester and doing a bunch of research, you end up taking a test twice a year. And so that gives you, I thought, a lot of freedom to get to know your classmates and really enjoy the academic pursuit. Also did study abroad. I'm a big traveler, and so I insisted on doing study abroad in the summers, and that was an excellent experience as well. And then I guess fast forward to going into consulting after my law practice. So been doing coaching, went to coaching school in 2018 and 19, and really developed that skill. That is a very EQ based skill, and very collaborative and cooperative and partnership based skill, sort of juxtaposed with the law training. The law training, you are the expert in the room and you're doing a lot of analysis. And if you're in a coaching relationship, the client and the coachee is the expert in the room, and you're really making no assumptions. You're just teasing out the path from them. And now my work is sort of a blend of both, because I find once we've teased out what we want, then it's very important to get it implemented properly right away. And since I work primarily with lawyers, they don't have a lot of time to move into that. They had little enough time to go through the coaching piece. They have no time to go into the implementing piece and hiring the rest of the experts that they would need to, say, change their bookkeeping or change their marketing or implement AI. And so I jump into that role as well.
Love it. Yeah, that's very well stated, because I can see here's how to do it. Let me show you and tell you. And then you're the expert in the coaching scenario, so that makes perfect sense to me. I'm not as familiar with the legal industry, so maybe from a legal vantage point, how is AI transforming from your lens? How's AI transforming the customer experience in a legal perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. I find the way that we're using it, intake processing has become one of the early scenarios in which people are using it. They're setting up different forms that are interactive for clients to start filling out forms and going through that process. Many still have the intake person being a real person, but then having it augmented by these scenarios. Digital receptionists have become very popular to have that extra layer of customer service. Some small firms are still very insistent that everything is human, but then on the back end we can streamline the information that they take in into the document production process, or moving it along the lines within the law firm, triaging it, assigning which attorneys to put on which matters, getting instant notification throughout the system. So things like that. What I think is very important, or can be really utilized, the marketing and data analysis that's available through AI, actually coming up with a very specific target market, doing some marketing type campaigns and sales type scripts with AI avatars. So coming up with someone who would be the representative of your client. So even if they're a CEO or running a company, or they're a 35-year-old mom professional in this area, like, you can actually create a demographic or an avatar for that demographic and ask ChatGPT or ask whatever AI program that you're used to create that person, so that you can actually have a conversation with them and find out what's going to resonate with them, if that's a target market for your prospective clientele.
Wow. I love both of those ideas because I think of the intake form when my son had a burn accident um, with one of the companies where you're cooking your meals at home. And so the oil in the pan burned. And so, I was calling lawyers like, hey, what are our rights in this area? What should we do? Right. And thank God, he went through this healing process and he's perfectly normal, and it burned bad, face, hands, second, third degree, and now he's perfectly healed. So my faith, as a result, has become so strong as a result of that. But that's a different podcast. But we called the legal firms, and it was a pain, because you call and they're just like, they're trying to diagnose, like, is there a case here? Which lawyer? Should it be A class, B class? Like, which type of lawyer? And I called 8 or 10 different places. Finally, one's like, well, actually, this one, you've got a case here. And then they didn't call you back, and it was a mess. And when we first launched this podcast, it was called Artificial Intelligence, for sales. And then we crossed out the artificial and called it augmented, because I was like, artificial sounds so fake. And I realized, in having 100 or 200 of these conversations, that it's augmented is what really adds the value, empowering a human. Sure, there's a lot of artificial stuff that adds a lot of value, but we as humans really want to interact with other people. And I've noticed that, I always love automation, so I like to try to lead with automation. But I always find that when you can empower a human, it's just that much more valuable. So what you found with the intake forms, I think, is extremely on point with what I'm seeing out there, and the analytics too. The other thing that with ChatGPT I learned is, my friend did focus groups when he lived in New York and he was a starving actor.
Mhm.
He would go in and make $100 in a day, and it was like, hey, that's how I can pay my bills and still be a starving actor. And so I was like, hey, if we were to hire one of those groups in New York City, like a really highly paid group, act as if we hired one of those and put it through, and then go put it through another one and tell us what might come out of a group like that,
Mhm.
and then, just like you're talking about, And you just have to get creative with your prompting, and you can really get some very interesting results from those kinds of mock studies through the
Yes.
GPT. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really neat. What about a success story? I just went to this event last night, and this group called Nooks delivers a dialing technology that gives you 5 times more dials. And then when you do the dials, how many more meetings do you get? And normally they say 2 times more meetings, not 5 times. Just because you're doing 5 times more dials, they admit you only get 2 times more meetings.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of results that you can share on a case study of where you've really sunk your teeth into an AI related story in the legal industry that you could share that have percentage based real world results?
Whew. That would be I work with smaller firms and a lot of stuff that's very personal and people to people. So we're really doing things that are very specific. But I had a good success story. I had someone I was helping choose a firm to go to, and they wanted to have it was a very important decision to make, and they had been approached by 4 different law firms, and they were becoming in the partner level, so very important, and they're smaller sized firms, so it's not like just joining a firm as one of 1,000 partners even. Very, very specific about what they wanted. They had a very specific mission, they had a very specific personality and offering, and I was able to build a custom GPT to analyze some key points of each of the firms that this person was looking into, and base it on, I can't get a hold of people's like legitimate personality profiles that they've taken, of course, but I can have the AI go on and read what's available on the internet and what's available for the firm on the internet. If there's maybe a Glassdoor rating, or if there's a complaint filed somewhere, or there's obviously the reviews that are out there. And so I was able to build a thumbnail mock up of each of these firms and the principals of the firms and the key players that the prospective partner would be working for, and then match them up with their own ideals, and it was like a thumbnail sketch or a heat map of which firms would be the best fit with all the information that was publicly available. And then that allowed them to go and set up the interviews knowing exactly what questions they needed to ask, and not waste time or not spend a whole lot of time on ones that was like, okay, this does not look like it's going to be a good fit. Great firm, great people, but not a good fit for what I'm planning for my career.
Wow. I thought I was sophisticated when I have employees in the past and even recently who said, I just need to be honest. I've been here for a long time, and this is, now and prior. And I'm a good leader where I say, okay, that's cool. I get it. You've been with the company for a long time. Do you mind if I give you some advice? When you're looking, look at, who's your manager, what's the company like, and I'll give them a series of 10 or 12 things, like what are your most important things, and then company A, company B, even company C, D, and E, and then rate 1 to 10 scale, and then look at the bottom and compare the numbers. And usually, you can pretty easily, your gut feeling is usually pretty on point. But you've just given me a new layer to say, okay, let's add some new AI sophistication to the model.
Mhm.
So that's really very, very compelling, because we all have we're unique individual beings. And if we can custom fit that to the right place, our level of enjoyment and satisfaction and joy, I mean, why wouldn't we want to have that level of perfect fit?
Mhm.
So that's really compelling. That is high value add. So absolutely amazing. What about misconceptions around AI? I mean, what you're illuminating is very great and personal, and I love it. What are the misconceptions you're seeing out there so far?
Well, they're sort of on two sides. They're like it can't be trusted at all, and that's starting to peel away. More and more people are at least curious about it than they were, say, even 90 days ago. It's been very much a tipping point over the summer, that people have been curious about it enough to say, okay, well, we're going to adopt it in some form or fashion, where there was a lot of closed doors before that. And then on the other hand, people think it's a miracle worker, or that I can literally just snap up, okay, well, this is the issue we're having, go make that. And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on. There's still a lot of pieces and parts that would go into that. Developers will still have to be hired for something that's that specific and robust. And, I can't just whip that out. Now, we can get a few things, we can get a few steps in the process. So we could build something that you do something, then AI does something, then you do something else, and then AI does something else, and sort of shorten the whole process, or augment, like you said, augment the process to make it quicker. Like buying one of those prepackaged meals that you cook at home. It's like, okay, well, it is going to go quicker because everything's chopped and measured, but there's still going to be the human doing most of the work. And that's what we can get to. So instead of a process that you make the menu, you go to the grocery store, you buy the stuff, you chop it, you cut it, you repair it, you bake it, you whatever, that's going to take the better part of a day. We can now shorten things down to a reasonable amount of time, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask a question that's not on the pre-questions that I sent you. It
Sure.
just came to mind. Any books that you might recommend in the AI world that people might want to read, or anything you're reading at the moment?
Yes, I really like the AI driven leader. And there, I think his name is Jeff. I can't remember his last name right now. And then there's one called Co-Intelligence.
Wow, good
And
advice.
both of those are very good. They're not real dense. They don't get into the whole background of it. They do a good overview of what we as leaders, what we as people in our roles need to know right now.
Every quarter, your pipeline goals go up. But when SDR teams are bogged down by prospecting, dialing, and coaching busy work, they struggle to hit their goals. That's where Nooks comes in. Nooks helps you double and even triple the pipeline you generate. Nooks is the AI sales assistant platform that automates account research, list building, and getting more great prospect conversations, so you can focus on the human side of selling. Companies like Seismic, Modern Health, and Greenhouse use Nooks to radically increase outbound pipeline. See how you can build more pipeline today by visiting nooks.ai.
Yeah, got it. There's one I'm reading called Digital Labor, and it was written in
Okay.
2019, and it's extremely relevant for right
Hmm.
now. That talks about the waves, and it kind of says we're between waves one and two, and wave three is when things get just massively disruptive. And when it talks about lawyers, when we were planning for this conversation, there's one company that was, even in 2019 to 2020, that went from 110,000 lawyers to 60,000 lawyers, down 50,000. And I was like,
Hmm.
wow. And then another example it gave was a fast food restaurant that went to 50% fewer workers because of the kiosks. And so I'm
Just the
just going,
just the
wow.
kiosks.
Yeah.
Now we
Yeah.
found a little bit on those books that were written in in early 20s, so like pre-pandemic era. Um, and the two are somewhat related, but not a direct correlation. There two things. It's like there were over predictions, and we saw that there were a lot of mass
Some
layoffs,
of it's
but
due to the COVID.
some of it
Yeah.
was due to the COVID. And so we saw that. And then, but now we're seeing a lot of rehiring just in different areas. And as far as attorneys, yes and no. I mean, there's still going to have to be people doing the work and working with the AI. So if I'm the CEO of 1,000 person law firm, I'm not going to be the person pushing the button to make the memos go out. There's still going to be everybody in the pyramid structure, the same firm structure. There's still going to be many, many layers to that structure. There will just be maybe either less people, or doing a high volume of work and a whole different area of work that has yet to be revealed.
Yeah. We went to the Sphere recently, and there was a bot that was there, and a
Okay.
gentleman or a gal on the other side. So there was one of each on each side. So two bots in the building. And, they were standing there talking to people, and the person would ask, "So what would you like to ask the bot?" And I was like thinking I could ask the bot directly, but they had an interpreter because they want to ask it in a certain form and fashion of language. So this person would like to ask, this is Chad from Colorado who has an AI for Sales podcast, and they speak very slowly to the bot. Would you please create a poem related to the AI for Sales podcast for Chad from Colorado? And then it takes about 10 seconds to think about it, and then it creates it. And so it's still fairly rudimentary to convert from all that into a physically spoken with mannerisms and eyebrows moving and everything else. But it was neat at the moment, but a gimmicky thing, right? So, but I think in a year or two, that will be a much different experience. We're at the very tip of the spear as it relates to all of that. So it was really interesting to see. Okay, I was there when.
I was there when this was like, like we used to have like the World's Fair, back in the day, and they had little gimmick even back in, what was it, 84 was the last one. They had the Futureland, and then the what's going to be coming, and of course we thought George Jetson and all that
Yeah,
little
this
stuff
is
was going to
Model T Ford
be
coming.
here. Yeah.
That's how about and this is very related to what we've always been talking about, balancing automation with personal touch.
Mhm.
How do you ensure that you maintain that balance?
Yeah, well, like just like you said, it's a balance, and just like people receive information in different ways. Like from marketing, some people still love a phone call. Some people want to email. Some people want you to chat them in some form or fashion, or text them in some form or fashion. Some people want videos. I personally don't care anything about the videos. I go script straight to the transcript, but more and more people love the short form videos. And so just like you need a combination for your audience, then you'll also need that with your, like, finding out what people's personal preferences are. But again, with AI, you can actually find like, hey, my demographic or my target market likes this particular style of communication. And depending upon how many clients you need or how many people you need to outreach, you might go with what you prefer, because then you would be finding more people that are more like you, and there would be more of an instant connection. But that's something about how deep do you want to go on that. But definitely finding out what people's preferences are, just sort of like we always have. Do you want me to send you a letter? Would you prefer email? Okay, can we confirm, will you confirm receipt of an email? Let's just make sure that the communication has happened. I'm also seeing post pandemic and now a lot of automation that conferences and in person meetings are at an all time high. So it's really been a major rebound for in person events. And I do expect that to continue, which I'm happy about. That's one of my favorites.
100%. Last night, funny enough, one of the participants in this 30-40 person event, they said two things. One is events are back. And he said over the last 3 years, it went from 200 people to 400 people. This year, there'll be 6. So it's tripled in size.
Mhm.
And another person at this 30-person event last night said, we need to start tracking the channel of choice that people respond to at the individual level. So if Daya responded to an email or a phone call or a LinkedIn outreach, let's track that at the individual level. So if someone's watching this show or listening, and Zoom Info is a recent sponsor, so Henry
Oh, cool.
Schuck, the CEO, is a personal friend. Henry, if you get if someone in your team is listening to this, please send this to Henry, or I will offline. Let's start tracking against the individual user what their preference of choice is, so that people who own the Zoom Info database know to stop sending videos to Daya because it's a waste of time, and instead call or email her. I think that would be a good idea. I know
That's
Nick
brilliant. Then,
Weldon, 5x5,
mhm.
already captures that kind of information, because they capture what's called an exhaust file from 100 or more different data providers. So if a company tracks phone calls from one data provider, they'll have an exhaust file and go, oh, Daya picked up last week at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and then they'll take that and they'll put it into a data set, and then they'll capture it and put it on file that all the other vendors in that same co-op can leverage and share and say, oh, Daya's a phone picker upper on Tuesday at 10 a.m. So it's kind of
Yeah, it's totally out there and doable, and it's just going to be tracking the data, and
yeah.
that's
And then in
sort of,
AI, you can serve that up.
you
So, if
can.
you're a lawyer and you want to reach a potential customer,
Mhm.
how valuable would it be to know that, oh, yeah, Chad picks up every Tuesday at 10 because he's walking his dog,
Right. Yeah,
That's pretty
for
cool.
whatever reason he is available, and that's one of the
Yeah.
few times. Every other time it went to voicemail. So
Yeah. Yeah. So fun world. What about emerging technologies? Because you're seeing things maybe that other people aren't as you're deploying tech. Anything caught your eye in the last couple of months?
oh gosh, everything. ChatGPT 5 just launched yesterday or the day before, and that's going to be interesting how it consolidated the other models, and where those of us who have built custom GPTs we're watching out how that planned out, because we originally selected which model we wanted it to run on, and now we're seeing how it's working as it rolls out. And let's see, gosh, I don't know. I know there's a lot of video avatar. People are recreating themselves as video avatars so that they can be in two places at once, and that's very interesting. Um, it's funny. It's like that's another thing that the tide turned. Like nobody wanted anybody to use their image or likeness 5 years ago, and now we have all created our own images and likenesses and have put them out in the world to be us effectively.
Mhm.
And then, of course, now there's misuse. There's people taking other people's videos and saying, "Hey, they're a spokesperson for my product," and then they're like, "Oh, we didn't know that you use that product." And they're like, well, we don't. And they literally just took it off of one Instagram video, reversed it, ran it through AI, and made these semi celebrities say whatever they wanted them to say on their
Yeah.
podcast.
I'm hearing in banking and financial, it's a very big risk because if they take, I am on these podcasts. So even a
Mhm.
60-second clip of
Mhm.
me having this conversation, they could now use my voice, call the
Mhm.
bank and go, hey, I need my PIN, let me in.
Yep.
And so the banks need to rethink their methodologies in terms of that. So that's a big risk there as
Mhm.
well. What about the ethics? That gets me into ethical conversation. Um, Speaking back to Zoom, one of the things I really love about Henry's approach to the world is even though there's regulations in the world of data, there's legal regulations, but then there's also ethical things that a CEO can do. And what I've always been impressed with Henry is he'll say, hey, if you don't want to be in our data set, just submit your information, we'll take you out. And he doesn't have to do that legally,
Mhm.
but he just does it because it's the right thing to do. And that's my personal belief with AI and ethics. There's people that kind of need to stand up and say, hey, let's be part of a consortium, or there's some group even outside the government that needs to come together and start creating ethics committee or something. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on who's ultimately responsible for ethical considerations?
Oh wow, who's ultimately responsible? Well, I think we should all look at it ourselves, but we are up against unethical players. So we have nation states and other organizations that's job and 100% mission is to do bad things with the available information that we can get a hold of these days. I think from our perspective, we know when to say when. Like I can obviously find out a lot more about people's personalities, but in my mind, I'm just using it to communicate with them better. It's as if I spoke a second language, but I didn't speak it very well, and my client speaks that language, then I would do everything in my power to communicate them with them better so that we would have a more comfortable relationship. So I feel like that's the way that the ethical people are using it. And as far as the unethical, it's going to be a hard time to catch up with that, with any security and barriers and post-development ethics, because the cat's out of the bag on
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah. Well, and since you're in the legal field, it's going to be interesting times, especially when the government's like, well, let's just push full throttle on the gas, and I'm like, I mean, I'm into less government interference, and yet I'm not in these kinds of areas. I'm like, it's just a fine balance, because that it is scary with AI, even though it's rudimentary at the sphere, like I said. What I'm seeing with what these things can do, and let me just share a quick example because I know we're running up on time. Someone was on the podcast with originality.ai, and they go into publishers and they check for originality, and they found that this one magazine was like 90% AI, and they're like, hey, just so you know, acquiring company, this is 90% AI generated, are you sure you want that? Well, one of the articles was written about mushrooms, and it said, the AI said, yeah, it's cool, you can just taste them. And if you know anything about mushrooms, I have a friend who loves mushrooms,
Uh,
and he can taste certain ones,
uh,
but not all of them, because you could die if you ate
you
the
could
wrong
die.
mushroom.
Yeah.
But this AI said, oh, it's cool, just go ahead and taste anyone you want. And so an AI without human monitoring
Mm-hmm.
actually wrote an article that actually got published in a physical magazine that went out to thousands of people that said, go ahead and taste any mushroom. So it could have killed people and caused lawsuits and everything else. And so it's like, if that might have been just an accidental thing, but what if an AI had bad intentions and wrote that kind of language on purpose, boom, and just took out swaths of people? And that's where you go, wait a second. So don't we need some oversight? And so that's where I'm like, okay, let's use an example like that to make sure people that have influence have this conversation and raise it above threshold. Like, come on, people, wake up.
That'll be for the next show. We'll get.
That'll
I'll
be
do
for
some. I'll
to be
do some. I'll
continued.
come up with some ideas, and we will get them out there.
Yeah. So I just park that in your brain as a very smart person, and pass that baton, because I'm not a government. Like, I don't like big government, and yet I like humanity.
So yes, someone has to do something, but we're not sure what yet.
Don't do nothing, as my friend Muscle So we'll leave it there, and let's. You know what we should do sometime is have a group podcast, because I really have enjoyed our conversation, and usually I do one-on-ones. Let's plan like a whole hour, and let's get a group of like 5 of us that we can
That'd be
all
great.
bounce around. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be awesome.
I'll invite you back, and we'll do that one of these days.
Thanks.
Daya, fabulous having you on the show. If people want to get a hold of you and hire you to help them in their law practice or any other vein of life,
Yes.
how would they get a hold of you?
Very easy to find. I'm on all the social medias, and it's either Deya Naef or The Success Partner. So very easy to get a hold of.
Amazing. Fabulous having you on the show today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Chad. It was great.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here on another AI for Sales podcast.
You've been listening to the AI for Sales podcast, sponsored by Nooks.ai and BDR.ai. The technology driving sales teams generate more closable pipeline than ever before. Ready to 10x your pipeline? Tap into the power of AI with Nooks and BDR.ai today. Thanks for being part of the AI for Sales movement. Until next time, keep crushing it.